What is up? It is Big Char Trades back with another video, and in this video I am going to be recapping my trade from today where we made around $9,066 across all my accounts. I made $1,500 on my 5 Topstep accounts, and then I made $422 across 3 of my Alpha Futures accounts. So with that being said, we finally broke the losing streak. If you guys have been keeping up with the recaps, you know that yesterday we lost around $16,900, and the day before that on Tuesday we lost around $15,900. So we're 2 for 6 on the week. Pretty horrible week. But with that being said, let's get into today's recap. So coming into the market, I was clearly bullish. As we can see on the 4-hour time frame, we're just invalidating all of these bearish PD arrays. As you can see, these bearish fair value gaps got inversed right here, and then these bearish fair value gaps also inversed, and we have this bullish gap and we have this bullish gap, and we just have a bunch of these bullish PD arrays that are being respected and a bunch of these bearish ones that are not. Okay, so coming into the market, my drawn liquidity levels was this high and then this high and this high, so 700, 812, and 845. Dropping down to the hourly time frame, as we can see right here. Let me go ahead and remove all my drawings. On the hourly time frame, we have all of these bullish fair value gaps, which just gave me more, oh my God, we're dumping right now. But this gave me more conviction in my bullish narrative. As well as on ES, we had inversed this first hourly gap coming into the market, whereas on the NASDAQ, we clearly did not. We actually went ahead and respected that fair value gap, telling me that higher prices were warranted. So with that being said, dropping down to the 15-minute, we see immediate displacement through Asia highs. We displaced through Asia highs and we displaced through London highs. And if you know how I trade, you know that when there's clear displacement through session highs, I don't really like targeting session lows. So my drawn liquidity for today, my first initial drawn liquidity was this most recent hourly high, which happened to also be a bearish fair value gap at 700. So I wanted to align a trade. Oh my God, we are dumping. I wanted to align a trade with that hourly fair value gap, right? That was my first draw. So dropping down to the 15-minute, what do we see here? Well, we see this 15-minute fair value gap that got inversed, and then we see, and I automatically invalidated that because obviously the higher time frame narrative matters more than the lower time frames, right? So this 15-minute fair value gap getting inversed doesn't really matter to me since we're inversing a bunch of 4-hour and hourly gaps up to the upside. So I basically wrote that off. I actually used this fair value gap, which happened to align with data lows being swept. So we had news at 8:30, right? So this 8:30 news right here, this is the low, right? We already swept the high, and if you trade data lows and data highs, you know that, right? If we sweep highs, we're most likely going to sweep lows before going higher, and if we sweep highs first, then we're most likely going to sweep lows to go lower, right? So swept the highs first, which gave me more bullish narrative, came down and swept the lows, and we also had SMT with ES because ES actually swept the lows way sooner. Let me zoom in here. This is data news. This is red folder news right there. ES actually swept data lows at 925, right? And as you can see, the NASDAQ swept them at 930. So we had that bullish SMT, and all I wanted to do was wait for a lower time frame confluence out of this low right here. So dropping down to the 2-minute, we can see that we have, and let me remove this so you can see price better. Let me go to replay mode. You can see that we had inversed this 2-minute gap on this candle closure. So I wanted to wait for a retest because obviously this is a huge leg. I ended up entering around here. My executions are on Twitter, so if you want to see them, you can look on Twitter. But we had a pretty big stop. We had a 36-point stop. And then my final TP was actually this hourly high right here at 700, right? But what ended up happening was, if we go to the 15-minute time frame, we can see that in the 15-minute time frame, we have this high that was actually swept right here. Wait a second. So the NASDAQ ended up sweeping that high right there, right? Let me cut that. Right, so the NASDAQ ended up sweeping that high, and if we look at this high on ES, we can see that ES hadn't swept that high yet. And also, if you know how I trade, you know that I always cut at bearish SMT at a key level. So on the NASDAQ, this was a key level. This was the highest high that we've made. So once we swept that, I closed my position. So I closed my position for around 20 points. So this ended up being, wait, let me go to 20 points. Yeah, I cut my position like right here at the high. So this ended up being or actually I cut my position at 0.8R. So I cut my position like right there. So if you look at my Twitter, you'd see that I realized a 0.8R when my initial trade idea was for a 2.2R. And then we went ahead, and after I cut, we ended up dumping, and price would have stopped me out. Everybody in the Discord took this trade though, which was honestly the better trade. We had this small little 15-minute gap that we didn't tap into on ES, but we clearly tapped into it on the NASDAQ right here. Yeah, we were trading way below it, so that's some more bullish SMT, and then there was a nice like 1 minute inversion out of that gap, which was, or 2 minute inversion, where was it? Or 1 minute inversion. Yeah, 1 minute inversion right here. So people in the Discord caught a nice banger trade. I honestly wish I took this trade instead. Nice like 1 point something R, ended up taking TP right there. But we finally came back from the losing streak. As you guys know, the past few days have rinsed me, so it's nice to have made some money today. But price action has been relatively dog shit. Hopefully after watching this recap, you understand why I was bullish and why I wanted to take that trade. I sized into this trade with 3 minis on Topstep and then 1 mini on Alpha. So with that being said, that concludes today's trade recap. If you want to join the Narrative Premium, go ahead and join down below. Link is in the description. I post my drawn liquidity levels every single day, and we do 3 live Q&As a week where I review homework, I review trades, and then I go ahead and answer some psychology questions, along with a 30 to 35 video course that I put together that teaches you my entire, way of trading. Or you don't have to join, whatever. But with that being said, if you have anything to say in the comments down below, let me know. I literally read all my comments. So if you have anything to say at all, just let me know down below. Let me know if you took the same trade as me or whatever. Also, subscribe if you feel like it. But with that being said, that concludes today's trade recap, and I will see you in the next one.